Imagine like you've been playing a massively multiplayer video game your entire life.
Oh man, I love a good video game analogy.
Right. So you've spent years grinding, collecting this very specific type of gold coin. And you do this because the game's manual always told you, hey, this is what you need to level up and find a partner.
Yeah, the classic progression path.
Exactly. But then, seemingly overnight, the developers drop this massive software update, and suddenly the store doesn't accept those gold coins anymore.
They want like a completely different digital currency.
Yes, and you're just standing there, pockets completely full of useless gold, just totally lost, while all the other players are wondering why you're not participating in the new economy.
That's exactly what is happening in the modern dating market right now.
It really is. And today, we are taking a stack of evolutionary psychology research. Specifically, this is drawn from a really fascinating multi-layered debate transcript on the Chris Williamson YouTube channel to decode why our ancient hardware is glitching so violently in this modern environment.
Yeah, and just to be clear for you listening, our mission with this deep dive isn't to point fingers or, get bogged down in internet culture war drama.
Definitely not.
We want to understand how these million-year-old biological instincts are just violently colliding with dating apps, social media, and modern career paths.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really ground this conversation, we need to look at a staggering statistic from the source material. Right now, 50% of young women hold a neutral or actively negative view of men.
Half of them.
Literally half. But when you look at the other side, only 7% of young men feel the same way about women.
Which is a massive, just glaring perception gap.
Where does a divide that wide even come from? Like, how do we get there?
Well, to understand that gap, we really have to look backward at the evolutionary mechanisms that shaped how men and women select partners in the first place.
Right.
Evolutionary psychology relies heavily on something called error management theory.
Error management theory.
Yeah, essentially, the human brain evolved to make the safest possible mistake. So for an ancestral woman, the cost of selecting a bad mate wasn't just, a boring Friday night date.
It was an incredibly high-stakes life-or-death gamble.
Exactly. Because making a mistake back in had permanent consequences. Let's look at the math of ancestral survival.
Okay.
A false negative like rejecting a decent man might mean you just stay single a bit longer, but a false positive.
Committing to the wrong guy.
Right, committing to a man who couldn't protect you or provide resources. That could literally mean starvation, physical danger, or death for you and your offspring.
Wow.
So evolutionary pressures mercilessly selected for women who are highly risk-averse, meticulously filtering for men who could offer provisioning and physical protection.
So those historical traits, the provisioning and the protection, those were the old gold coins in our video game analogy.
That's exactly.
Men were hardwired to gather them and women were hardwired to demand them, but the environment completely shifted.
It shifted radically and in a very short amount of time. I mean, look at the modern socioeconomic arena.
Right.
Women are outperforming in education, earning their own money, achieving independent status.
And living in largely safe, climate-controlled environments.
Exactly. The traditional life or death survival benefits that men historically provided are simply no longer the baseline requirement for a woman to exist safely in the world.
So women are essentially holding their own gold coins now, but it's not that they don't want partners, right?
No, not at all.
Because the research highlights that they just require completely different traits today. Things like shared political ideals, high emotional intelligence, witty banter.
Yeah.
But if the baseline has moved from can you fight off a predator to can you communicate effectively, are men just fundamentally lost on how to generate the new currency?
What's fascinating here is how this dynamic actually creates a deep asymmetry. Men are struggling to pivot to these new domains. They are still culturally and biologically primed to offer the old currency.
The provisioning.
Right. And simultaneously, the modern mating market has removed the guardrails that historically kept bad behavior in check.
You mean like on dating apps?
Think about dating apps. They offer unprecedented anonymity. Historically, human beings lived in tribes of about 150 people.
So everybody knew everybody.
Exactly. If a man pursued a deceptive short-term mating strategy, like if he lied to a woman and abandoned her, he faced massive immediate consequences.
Right. A woman's kin, her brothers, her father would literally enact physical revenge.
His reputation would be permanently destroyed. You couldn't just ghost someone and move to a new village.
But today, you can just swipe right in a city of 4 million people, act terribly, and disappear into the ether without a scratch on your reputation.
And that lack of consequence creates an absolute minefield for women. The source talks about how the path to a committed relationship is now laid with tripwires.
Tripwires.
Yeah, they have to navigate extreme ambiguity, deal with deceptive players, often labeled in modern culture as fuckboys, and risk severe emotional burnout.
And because women don't strictly need a man's financial provisioning for basic survival anymore, that ancient evolutionary risk aversion kicks into overdrive.
Right. The subconscious calculation becomes, well, the juice is not worth the squeeze. Singlehood is just inherently less risky than navigating a high-deception mating market.
Wait, I'm struggling to connect this a bit. If the old currency is void and women are retreating because of all this ambiguity, the whole system just feels mutually unfulfilling.
Well, men are arguably getting more out of modern women than ever before. Modern women bring high levels of physical attractiveness, which men heavily value evolutionarily. But they also bring their own resources, status, and income to the table.
So men are getting more while women feel they're getting significantly less of what they need to feel secure.
Exactly. And this triggers a deep-seated alarm system in women.
But if women are pulling back from men because their alarm systems are going off, where is that ancient drive for connection redirecting itself?
That is a great question.
It seems like it's funneling straight into their own social networks. This brings up the concepts of social contagion and sisterhood from the text.
Yeah.
If you're a woman navigating a minefield, you desperately need to know who is walking through it with you.
We have to look at the ancestral environment again here. Human history is largely patrilocal.
Meaning what, exactly?
That means women historically relocated to their husbands' communities, moving away from their own blood relatives. To survive in a new tribe of strangers, a woman had to build absolute trust with the other women in that community.
Because her life literally depended on integrating into that female network.
Precisely.
I understand the survival aspect, but how do young women signal that kind of intense loyalty to each other today? Like, how do you prove you are a girl's girl in a modern city?
Well, one of the primary mechanisms researchers are observing today is in-group bonding through shared grievances. Yeah. Surprisingly, one of the fastest ways to signal loyalty to the sisterhood is by expressing a distrust or dislike of men. It establishes a shared out group, which tightens the in-group bonds.
That makes a lot of sense.
And the research details a really fascinating biological mechanism behind this social contagion.
Meaning emotions are literally contagious.
Specifically within female networks, yes. Evolutionarily, men formed coalitions for action like hunting parties or warfare.
So if a man panicked or broke down, the whole party was in immediate danger.
Right. So emotional suppression was favored for men. But women formed coalitions for care. Co-rumination, literally sharing the burden of a negative emotion, was an evolutionary mechanism to ensure an isolated, distressed mother didn't abandon her offspring.
So today, that means sadness, anxiety, and depression spread through female networks in a way that simply doesn't happen in men's networks.
Exactly. If one woman is traumatized by a bad dating experience, the whole group sits in that emotion together to process it.
Which totally explains why modern progressive politics has become such a massive factor in dating. Young women are highly sensitive to political alignment right now.
Oh, heavily.
Like, finding out a guy has differing views on complex geopolitical conflicts or immigration is treated as an immediate non-negotiable red flag.
Yeah.
And I know we aren't taking a political stance here, we're just looking at the behavior. But why has politics become the ultimate filter?
Because of secularization. Traditional religion is no longer the primary moral yardstick for younger generations.
Yeah.
Politics has stepped in to fill that void.
It functions as a proxy for your core morality.
Right. If you are a demographic that historically evolved to evoke care and signal vulnerability to survive, it is in your best interest to design a societal structure that transfers resources to the vulnerable.
So supporting progressive causes is a high-status signal of profound pro-social kindness to other women.
Exactly.
Right, it's easily advertised morality. But I want to pause on something here because this really shifted my perspective on how we view female friendships.
Oh, the competition aspect.
Yes. The research highlights the hidden intersexual competition among women, specifically something called the bless his heart effect.
I love that term.
It's so accurate. It's where women use feigned sweet concern to mask negative gossip, like, oh, bless her heart, she's trying so hard in that dress.
Right, right.
Is this intense political alignment and policing of tone actually altruism, or is it just a modernized, highly evolved form of female competition and social survival?
It is absolutely a form of prestige-based competition, The modern workplace and the social sphere heavily punish overt physical aggression. You can't just physically fight a romantic or professional rival.
No, you'd get fired or arrested.
Exactly. But you can use subtle, egalitarian-seeming strategies like gossip wrapped in maternal concern or policing someone's political purity to simultaneously assert dominance while maintaining a pristine public image of kindness.
Because women instinctively distrust unkind women.
Yes, so competition has to be cloaked in pro-social concern.
Wow. So while women are utilizing complex ideological alignment and social co-rumination to navigate this landscape, how are men reacting? They're feeling undervalued and isolated, so they seem to be turning to extreme physical optimization.
Enter the phenomenon of looks-maxing.
Looks-maxing.
Yeah. Men have realized that in a visually saturated, short-term, mating market like dating apps, physical attractiveness is the first massive gateway.
Right, if you don't pass that initial visual threshold on a screen, your emotional intelligence or your earning potential doesn't even get a chance to be evaluated.
Exactly.
And because we're talking about isolated young men on the internet, they don't just like eat some vegetables and do push-ups, they take it to absolute
I love
extremes.
extremes.
We're talking about bone smashing, elective jaw surgeries, and obsessing over hypermuscularity. But wait, I'm struggling to connect this. If men know women want emotional intelligence and shared values, why on earth are they getting jaw surgery? That feels totally irrational.
It looks irrational until you realize they are suffering from a massive failure in what psychologists call cross-sex mind reading.
Cross-sex mind reading.
Right. Men are trying to figure out what women want, but they are using the wrong data set. They are optimizing for the male gaze.
Oh, they're trying to look like what other men respect.
Yes. Intensely formidable, hypermasculine faces and massive physiques, often referred to in internet culture as the gigachad.
The gigachad face. But when researchers poll women on what they actually find attractive, they prefer something entirely different, right?
Completely different.
They often prefer a neutral or even slightly feminized face paired with a masculine body. The data pointed out that when forced to choose between the hypermasculine looks-maxing influencers and, say, a K-pop star, women overwhelmingly chose the K-pop aesthetic.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, men are trying to solve an evolutionary problem standing out to mates. But by pushing muscularity and hypermasculine aesthetics to the extreme, they are accidentally sending the exact wrong signal.
Is men's extreme looks-maxing basically just the male equivalent of a woman doing a 100-step skincare routine under a heat lamp?
Yes, pretty much.
They're desperately trying to future-proof themselves against the inevitable forensic scrutiny of a woman's group chat. But it totally backfires, right?
It backfires spectacularly.
Because to a woman, a man who is that obsessed with his physical appearance is highly suspicious. It signals that he is actively on the mating market, deeply self-obsessed, and carrying a high risk of infidelity. It reads as neurotic, not masculine.
That is a perfect analogy. A woman views a man who spends 3 hours a day microanalyzing his jawline as a flight risk.
A flight risk.
Yeah. If he is optimizing his appearance that intensely, he is likely looking for his next option. So in his desperate attempt to become more attractive, he accidentally triggers a woman's evolutionary risk aversion.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Well, actually, no. It's more tragic than interesting. This failure of men to understand what women want physically is perfectly mirrored by society's complete failure to understand what men need emotionally.
This is such a crucial point.
We tell men to be vulnerable, but what actually happens when they do? Let's explore the male vulnerability paradox from the text.
There is a massive, widespread cultural push demanding that men open up, show weakness, and cry.
But the research points out a harsh paradox.
It does. When men actually do exhibit vulnerable emotion like breaking down and crying on social media, they are frequently met with intense, visceral disgust.
They are mocked, labeled soy boys, and they rapidly lose respect from both male peers and romantic partners. It's a total trap. We demand they open the door, and the second they do, we slam it on their fingers. Why is the reaction so negative?
We have to return to the concept of coalitional value. Men have a deep evolutionary history of working together in life-or-death scenarios, hunting massive game, engaging in tribal warfare.
So in those environments, showing vulnerability or emotional collapse wasn't just healthy expression.
No, it was a massive liability. Your brothers in arms needed you to be stoic and functional, or the entire coalition could die.
Which perfectly explains the concept of tonic masculinity. Passive sympathy just doesn't compute for a lot of men.
Not at all.
There was an incredible anecdote in the source material about a morbidly obese man whose best friend texted him, "You fat pig," every single day.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the man credited that brutal, relentless text with saving his life. He said it proved his friend actually cared enough to demand he be better.
Right.
Tough love works because it signals, hey, you have value to this coalition and we need you functional.
Exactly. Men often bond through shared adversity and mutual challenge, not passive coddling. And this paradox bleeds directly into female preferences, too.
How so?
Well, while modern society demands emotional softness and vulnerability from men, women still harbor a deeply ingrained ancestral preference for male formidability and physical protection.
Oh, there was a viral CCTV video from Thailand mentioned in the research that illustrates this perfectly.
The knife attack one.
Yes. A couple is approached on the street by an attacker with a knife. The woman steps up and fights the guy off, while her boyfriend literally cowers and hides behind a concrete pillar.
And the internet universally condemned the boyfriend.
And absolutely destroyed him online.
Because a woman's preference for a protector is incredibly strong and hard to override. When polled, women reported that finding out a man was unwilling or unable to protect them in a physical confrontation would negatively impact his attractiveness far more than if they discovered he had a one-night stand.
Wait, really? More than infidelity?
Yes. They want a man who is entirely capable of extreme lethal aggression to defend them, but who can perfectly and instantly turn that aggression off when he's just sitting on the couch watching a movie.
Talk about an impossible tightrope walk. So we essentially want a golden retriever husband who can instantly transform into John Wick the second someone tries to steal a purse.
Pretty much.
Are we not selecting for traits that are biologically at odds with each other? You want a highly trained assassin who also loves to bake sourdough and listen to your feelings?
We are sending completely contradictory signals. We punish men for traditional masculine aggression in the modern workplace. And rightfully so, physical dominance doesn't belong in a corporate office.
Sure.
And we demand they show warmth and submissiveness. But when they do display high warmth and low agency, they are fundamentally deemed incompetent or completely unsexy by the very people demanding those traits.
And these impossible standards aren't just isolated to dating apps. They are being explicitly written into our pop culture and even our scientific research.
Yeah, the media tropes.
Think about the media we consume. The source compares the narrative arc of the original animated movie Mulan to modern live-action remakes or characters like Captain Marvel.
Right. In the original animated Mulan, the protagonist is physically weaker than the male soldiers. She has to use grit, high intelligence, and uniquely feminine guile to overcome massive obstacles.
She trains, she fails, she adapts.
It's a compelling story of self-empowerment achieved through profound struggle. But in modern iterations, often called the Mary Sue trope, the female protagonist is born instantly perfect.
She has magical powers or supreme physical strength from day one.
Exactly. She doesn't need to change. She just needs the external world to, quote, believe in her.
Which creates this strange therapeutic culture where a woman's ultimate goal is simply self-actualization. She is immutable, already perfect as she is, and the world must bend around her to accommodate that perfection.
And consequently, men are no longer viewed as partners in a struggle. They are just viewed as obstacles to her self-actualization. This raises an important question about how our culture is mismeasuring basic biology.
Oh, with the psychological scales.
Yes. The researchers point out that psychological scales used in academia to measure things like benevolent sexism or toxic masculinity often pathologize basic evolutionary realities.
Like what?
For example, if a man acknowledges on a survey that women generally desire a protective male partner, the scale automatically scores him as exhibiting benevolent sexism.
Which makes an unproven secondary assumption that because he thinks women want physical protection, he must secretly want to restrict female autonomy and keep them in the kitchen.
Exactly. It's a massive illogical leap.
It really is.
It's what the researchers call the soft bigotry of male expectations. We have reached a point where society actively treats naturally female-coded behaviors, like ancestral gathering, nurturing, or community building, as inherently less valuable.
Less valuable unless women can perform the male-coded behaviors like aggressive hunting or corporate dominance in the exact same way men do.
Right. We are inadvertently devaluing the unique evolutionary strategies women naturally brought to the table.
Speaking of biology, there was a surprising fact in the research about pregnancy that I could not believe.
The beauty hit.
Yes, we live in a society that operates on pretty privilege, the massive, unspoken societal and financial advantages given to highly attractive people. And because of this, women are highly disincentivized to have children because women take a literal, permanent beauty hit from pregnancy.
It's a reality of biomechanical adaptation.
Their feet actually grow larger with each pregnancy.
Yeah, adult human females are the only mammals that carry a pregnancy while walking completely upright on 2 feet. It requires incredible balance and stability as the center of gravity shifts, so the arches flatten and the feet physically widen and grow.
Oh.
Furthermore, a woman loses some facial neoteny during the aging and stress of motherhood.
Neoteny being those childlike, youthful facial features that human beings are biologically wired to find attractive and instinctually want to protect.
Exactly.
So if you live in a world where Instagram and algorithmic media have warped our natural desire to reproduce into a desire to just market ourselves like a flawless, ageless product online,
Having a child literally ruins the product.
that's so bleak. No wonder young women are experiencing what pop culture calls the ick. Young women are actively encouraged by therapeutic culture to find tiny microscopic flaws in men to justify avoiding commitment entirely, just to protect their own highly optimized independent lifestyle.
Social media heavily incentivizes women to be constantly on guard, bracing for red flags everywhere.
Right.
If your ultimate goal is pristine self-actualization and maintaining your value in a visual economy, a partner who leaves his socks on the floor or says the wrong thing isn't just an annoyance.
He's viewed as an active threat to her optimized reality.
Precisely.
So what does this all mean? Let's synthesize this incredibly complex journey. Modern dating feels like a complete train wreck because we are running ancient hunter-gatherer software on the modern hardware of social media, ideological echo chambers, and hyper-individualism.
That sums it up perfectly.
Men are lost in the dark, trying to build the wrong kind of status by getting jaw surgeries and acting tough for the male gaze. Meanwhile, women are bracing for endless red flags, retreating into the safety of the sisterhood, and demanding a protector who never actually shows an ounce of aggression. Both sides are playing entirely different games.
They are acting completely rationally based on the twisted, unnatural incentives of the modern digital environment. They're just missing each other entirely.
But there is a fascinating glimmer of hope from the data to leave you listening with. Did you know that 60% of long-term romantic relationships actually start as platonic friendships?
60%.
Yeah. Yet the algorithms are pushing young men and women into completely different digital realities. The source points out that young women grew up watching beauty vloggers like Zoella, while young men were isolated in basements playing RuneScape.
They don't even share the same cultural touchstones or vocabulary anymore.
Exactly. So if the dating apps are fundamentally broken, and our cross-sex mind reading is failing this spectacularly, is the ultimate rebellion simply forcing ourselves to log off and build genuine, messy, real-world platonic friendships with the opposite sex?
It really might be the only functional way to recalibrate our understanding of one another. I mean, proximity breeds intimacy, but more importantly, it breeds empathy. You can't pathologize someone you genuinely understand.
Because right now, we're all just standing around in the digital lobby, holding on to our worthless gold coins, wondering why the game isn't fun anymore. Maybe it's time we stop playing the algorithmic game and just talk to the player sitting next to us. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.